Hello and welcome to my favourite time of year. This exam is the one that is going to propel you to the grade you want. Why? Well, let me tell you. 10% of students have already given up at this stage. I'll get 10% fewer viewers on my channel. It happens every year. And this happens because they give in to that awful experience of the first paper. So that means 10% of your opposition has disappeared. This is an exam that rewards hard work. If you keep writing for 2¼ hours, you will mark yourself out as totally different to other students taking this exam. It's human nature. They will think like this. But that won't get them any marks. They will imagine that they're thinking and doing well, but actually they're just chucking marks away. You, on the other hand, are going to keep writing. Now, you only have a few tasks to do. You want to spend 3 minutes at the beginning of each one writing your plan. I've taught you how to plan before. You write down the author's purpose and you do it as quickly as you can with as many different ways as you can, and then you order those points in a way that will build an argument. Because when you build an argument, you have a conceptualized response, and when you have a conceptualized response, you're at the top of the mark scheme straight away. Okay, some tips about each question. You've planned it. Now you have to write a thesis paragraph where you outline your argument, and it needs to have 2 big ideas in it. 3 if you want, but definitely 2. Next, you need to plan an answer that deals with the whole text. And the best way to do that is make sure you write about the ending. The ending, remember, is where the author delivers their final point of view. They have changed the character's story. They have changed the theme. And you will be able to interpret something new from the ending that shows an arc, a journey from what it was before to what it is now. And that is part of your conceptualized response, which will get you at least into the grade 6 if you do it badly, and the grade 7 if you do it okay. So here we are at the top of the mark scheme, and this is why writing about the ending of the text is so useful to you. When you're writing about the ending, you're naturally moving towards a well-structured argument because you have to consider how the text ends up with the author's final ideas in order to structure that argument. The other great thing about dealing with the ending is you're automatically dealing with the structure. And by implication, you're also dealing with why the text, be it a novel or a play, is written in that form. So, for an Inspector Calls, this is a deliberate cliffhanger in the form, and it's inviting the audience to speculate and keep thinking about the issues in the play when they leave. So it's very easy to link to form and structure when you write about the ending of the text. And the other fantastic thing it does is it invites you to offer more than one perspective, which you will justify with bits of context, and that meets all the other needs of the top band. So amazingly, you can get a grade 8 response really by analysing the end properly. And if you don't do it brilliantly, let's come down to the level below, which is where the grade 7 is. Well, you'll still be thoughtful, won't you? And you'll be detailed and you'll be developed. So it's going to be super difficult for the examiners not to want to give you a grade 7. You're writing about the full task because you've written about the ending, and you will have integrated that into your interpretation. So again, you're likely to get at least a grade 7. As before, you're looking at more than one idea, more than one interpretation, and a little bit of context to back it up. So even done badly, you're highly likely to get a grade 7. There aren't many exams you can say that in, and possibly that's why the examiners make this exam so flipping long, because on the individual questions it is possible to do really well. What makes it difficult is that you have to do so many of them in a long time. The other mistake that students make is they can't remember a quotation, and so they make one up. Or they think, oh, I can't write about that, I can't remember the quotation. Well, it doesn't matter, you just need to be able to reference what happens in the text. If you can't remember the exact words, that won't count against you. Put in the reference, and so the examiner knows why you think what you think. The next thing to watch out for is not to write loads and loads in a single paragraph. Each time you introduce a new idea, that is a new paragraph. Examiners hate getting a massive block of text. Students think like they're rationed. I only get so many paragraphs in an essay. That's not the case. Every time you change topic or idea, present it with a new paragraph. That will genuinely make your answer much easier for the examiner to read, and if you've got time, for you to check. Remember, the characters you're writing about are not real. The examiners like to think of them as constructs. They are constructed in order to put forward the author's point of view. And once you start using that word construct, or they are created in order to, you suddenly go up in your mark range because you're explaining why the author has done what they've done. Now, you will always be able to write about the structure of your text. That will get you into the top grades. And when you're writing about the structure, you're basically saying, why do these events happen in this order? Why do I find out about this here and not here? The two easiest ways to do that work every time is to write about the beginning of the text and write about the end. Now that also helps you talk about that arc, that journey, where the theme or the character has changed from beginning to end. So that's a really easy way to structure your essay, to show the change from beginning to end. If you're really sophisticated, some writers start in straight by dealing with the ending of the text. So I'm telling you that to give you the confidence, if that's what you wish to do, but you don't have to. That simple structure of beginning to end will always work. Now we come to the conclusion. In your conclusion, you're really asking, what does the author want to change in society? That one question, what does the author want to change in society? And you using that word society in your answer will force you up the mark scheme. And if you've forgotten to use the word society through your essay, remember to do it in the conclusion and you'll get credit for that conceptualized thinking. Right, next comes the poetry comparison. Now the crucial thing there is that you don't get bogged down in loads of different things to say about the poems. You're really only going to concentrate on 5 things, and they are the Fossway. I'll remind you of what that is here, and I shall put some links up here so that you can find the Fossway if it's unfamiliar to you. The Fossway starts with F, and that's for form. So with the poems, to get the top marks, you need to discuss the form of the poem. So if it's a sonnet, why is it a sonnet? If it's got a tight rhyming structure, why? If it's written in 10-syllable pentameter lines, why? These things are easy ways for you to move up the mark scheme. If you're not sure, pop over to my quick-fire revision guides, these sort of 10-15 minute videos that will tell you how. If you follow through the Foss structure, so you deal with the form first, then the opening of the poem, then some language features, then a structural feature, and then the ending, that will give you 5 comparisons. That's plenty for your essay. Next comes the unseen poem. And surprise, surprise, the Foss structure works exactly the same, although you'll probably get a poem that doesn't have an obvious form because it'll be a modern poem. So you don't have to worry about that. But again, you follow through exactly the same structure and you'll get the grades. The great thing about the unseen poem is the marks are easy to get because nobody's seen this poem before, and therefore the examiners aren't expecting any context, any really deep understanding. They're expecting you to have the confidence just to have a go. And that brings me back to what I said at the beginning of the video. I love this exam because it just rewards people who try, people who don't give up. These are people I love. These are people I want to employ or I want to teach. So I'm quite delighted that this exam doesn't reward people who give up easily, because where will they get in life? Your ability to keep going is so advantageous here. You don't even have to be very good at English. Don't tell anyone I told you that. You just need to keep going. Now, at this point, you will start to flag, and your hand will genuinely hurt. And imagine me at your shoulder making fun of you, standing over you, saying, "Come on, stop being such a wimp." Now, I hope that will help. Not in a mean way, but you probably sat through Avengers Endgame, which was much longer than this exam. Now, next you come to the poetry comparison of the two unseen poems. Now, many students go wrong here because they think they have to write a long answer. You don't. This is a tiny question that you're just going to bash out really quickly. You need to stick to your time limits. Okay, let's check out the timings. There are 2 hours and 15 minutes and 3 sections. So pretty much what you're saying is that section A will take 45 minutes, section B will take 45 minutes, and so will section C. You must stick to those time limits, please. That's the best way to maximize your marks. Because, as I've told you before, the easiest marks are at the beginning of the question. And if you spend extra time on the end, you will lose more marks than you would gain starting a new question. Now, section C is split into 2 questions. There's the longer question on the unseen poem, which is 24 marks, and then the really bizarre comparison, which is only 8 marks and therefore a much less important question. Students often write far too much for this one and not enough for the individual one, which was 24 marks. So this works out at roughly 1.5 minutes per mark. So your 8 marks is worth 12 minutes. That's all you should spend on that question. And on the unseen poem on its own, it's roughly going to be 33 minutes. And so the most obvious way that students do badly on this paper is they either give up or they don't use their timings properly. So it's worth spending some time at the beginning of the exam saying, right, section A, I'm going to finish in 45 minutes time. Put the time next to it. Section B, add on another 45 minutes, put the time next to it. Section C, add on 33 minutes and then 12 minutes. You've been in the exam hall lots of times now, so you know whether you can see a clock, and if you can't, take one in. The time limits are your best friend because the marks that you can get at the end of a question are much harder to get than you can get at the beginning. And so it never pays to overrun. It always pays to stop the question and start the new one, because the first few marks are super easy to get. And again, you're rewarded here pretty much for writing speed. The faster you write, the more ideas you can get down. The examiner's not too worried about presentation. If they can read it, it's fine. If it's too messy to read, it's not. So don't spend extra time making it look beautiful. Now, if you are caught for time and you think, right, I'm not going to be able to go back, you need to check sort of 5 minutes before your time limit's up, because your conclusion is going to be so important. It doesn't matter if you miss something out towards the middle of your essay, but missing the conclusion means you can't have constructed an argument with a logical end, and that will count against you big time. So miss something out in the beginning, in the middle, if you know you're running out of time, to make sure you get to your end point, because your conclusion is going to tie together your argument by dealing with the end of the text, showing the examiner you've dealt with the whole text, and also showing that you've built an argument about the concepts in the text. Now remember, this exam will hurt, but it's only pain. And as they say, no pain, no gain. Turn and watch the people next to you wilting. Don't do it too obviously, because the invigilators might get suspicious, but a little quiet smirk to yourself is a lovely moral victory because you will genuinely feel better if other people are doing worse. Don't do that in real life, but it's fun in the exam. So I think I'll be allowed back in the house now. My daughter's just preparing a lesson for her interview in Wales. Yes, my family are going international. So good luck tomorrow. Don't leave anything in the tank. See you soon on my channel.